What have we got here?
A red door.
This is Cooper's stripper. Cooper's, the stripper that gets it off every time. No sanding, so easy. None of that toxic, messy dust floating around. We're done. Yes. Underneath the red paint is mahogany. And we did a little patch the other day to see what we had our hands on. And we're going to do a tutorial of the stripping of this door. I would get this door done in a day by myself, but it's now halfway through the day, so we've got George with us to make up the time. So we'll get this off the hinge and get this into the workshop. I'll be back to you shortly. We're all set up, ready to go. So I'm going to be working on a corner panel. George is going to be working at the other end. So this is the stripper, this is Cooper's stripper. So we start the game by taking off what's on the surface. And we know that we've got this acrylic enamel on top, this red one, and then we've got 2 layers of blue underneath, and then we've got some stained varnishy stuff underneath that. The game is apply the stripper, you can give it time to work its way through, and as it works its way through, we keep it wet with additional stripper.
Yes, it's not weed killer, is it? That's just going to
Go through
kill it from the roots.
30 coats with one squirt. So we just keep that damp with the strip. Now, if we were stripping just one side, we would mask the underside, protect it from any bits that might get onto it. And we're not going to do both sides. We're going to take all the fun away from Matthew. So we're going to leave the other side for him. As the droplets come out, it comes out as a solid droplet. So rather than coming out as an atomized mist to float around the room.
Sure.
So the liquid comes out and then instantly sinks down onto the surface.
Not like fly spray, is it?
No.
We do ventilate.
We've got extraction going, we've got a fan just keeping the air changed. If you want to wear a mask, that's all cool. Make sure it's a charcoal mask.
So how do you know, Simon, if it's gone through?
You're going to do a test. This is a tungsten blade scraper. No real pressure at all. Okay, so that's really good. This is a long handle. Normally when you buy these sort of handles, they're really short and the blade's quite narrow, and so you've got to put a lot of energy into it, make it work, and then you end up gouging things. So having the extra length of handle makes all the difference. You don't want to gouge the wood, because if you gouge the wood, then you have to sand it, and we're all about no sanding.
So you're blading in direction of the grain.
Now, being that this is a tungsten edge, what I've done is I've actually taken the corners off with a diamond file. Again, less chance of gouging into anything. So you see I'm actually just using one hand. There's no need for 2 hands at this point.
I mean, it's not really, it sounds quite crunchy, doesn't it? It's resistant.
It's got a rubbery sort of feel. So if there's parts that haven't gone all the way through, then that's no drama. You'll be putting a bit more stripper on. So this is a blade that had a big handle on it, but I quite like using these by hand. You can just simply lightly again just drag. You'll see most of the things we do are always done with a dragging action. This is our 4-edged blade, and this longer edge has got these extensions that are ideal for getting into these parts. So we're just taking off bulk at this point, where we say taking off what's on the surface. We're not bothered about how good it looks at this point. So I'm just getting into all these detail-y parts, and then I'm going to use this brush just like a bit of a broom for a start.
No point wasting stripper on bits that are already done.
No. Down here we have a bin. So in this paint here is all of the stripper, pretty much. I mean, a little bit may have evaporated, but the vast majority is in there. So what do? We chuck it into the bin with a lid, and that's now where all the stripper is. You don't, if you use a litre of stripper, there's no reason for you to have a litre of stripper floating around the room. The bit of stripper that has evaporated into the room, that's being extracted by the forced ventilation we have. So we put on more stripper. So we had a really good, we pretty much got rid of all the red. We've got big parts through to the wood. There's still some of the sort of light blue and the dark blue. So we'll give that a few more minutes. So it's been about another 5 minutes. And look at that. So just cheers. You can see there's the little amount of pressure that's required. So it's going through all those last layers of paint, and it's just sliding over the surface. You've got to be careful not to overlap there, otherwise you're going to create drama. So where you see darker brown and lighter colours, that's just the wood stain that's still in there, and we'll get rid of that as the project goes on. And as you go, you just keep using whatever is available to get into all these little nooks and crannies. Our stripper is virtually pH neutral. Most strippers are either acid or alkali. If you leave it on a little bit too long, it burns the timber, gets a chemical burn. This doesn't have that issue. So if it needs a little longer, then you just give it a little longer. These little 4-inch blades, we supply those and they're amazing. The more of this paint stuff I can get off, the less work down track. Jordan's stolen my blade.
Mine now.
Surprised it took so long. A light touch
The stripper does the work.
is better, yep. This is where the brush is best, that last little part there. The next stage, which is getting the finish out of the grain itself, the more we can get off here, the less we have to do there. On this edge here, there's a saw edge there. So we call it a modified broad knife. And we're just using it to lightly give it a little score mark there. It's still a place where paint can build up. It's what a glorious day in the Hawke's Bay. I'm going to put on more stripper. So the whole process is dissolving the old finish. I'm not so much worried about the outer parts yet, I'll come back to those. I just want to focus on the mouldings.
If you're doing this job without this tutorial, you would have started spraying up another area way before now.
Yeah, which is what George is doing. So this is our 2 detail brushes. We've got a copper one and a brass one. Brass is a little coarser than the copper one, but they're not like wire brushes that tear everything apart. So we're just lightly again, you'll notice that a lot of stuff we do is all light-handed work. Everything we scrub is wet, so there's no dust, there's no gouging, and we're just liquefying, dissolving, liquefying, easing it off with these. Mahogany is what they call a hardwood, which actually has nothing to do with hardness. It's the fact that it has fibres and pores. But it's very open grained, like oak, like walnut.
Deciduous trees.
Yep, put leaves on.
Leaves that fall off.
That's right, leaves that fall off. Needly ones, softwoods.
Which can be hard.
Yes, totally. Balsa is technically a hardwood.
And it's hard.
So we're making this slurry, and we're just wanting to, well, I've got a good bit of slurry there. It's a good time to get it off. So we roll our rags around.
Absorbent rags are good rather than some cottons. You want absorbent cottons.
Yep, this is a boiled mutton cloth. The person that made this door sanded it, so it's already sanded. So we're just dissolving off what's been put on it in such a way that we're not damaging the wood. Getting into corners, just open your rag up and you can put your blade into it. Keep rolling your rag around. What we'll do now is put one more coat of stripper on. This is now going to get into the grain and get rid of all this varnishy stain stuff. I'll show you the grip pad. So here's it's a black nylon-y type pad, and it's got a very fine grit. It's got 180 grit embedded into it.
I thought you said no sanding.
We're not sanding. You see, this wood has got all these little micro grooves. If I got a magnifying glass out, you'd see lots and lots of little grooves like on a deck. And we want to get into those. We're not going to be removing wood. We're just getting in. So let's
Like
see.
a record player needle on a record, isn't it?
Yes, that. So look at that.
Colour.
So if you've got the radio going,
Audiobook playing in your ears.
maybe a beer or a wine or two. You can just cruise through the store today. We'll show you a real cool finish later.
We don't mind what your intention is next, be it painting or glue finishing. You just want it ready.
So the first lot of strippers we put on, we left for a good few, like 10 minutes or something like that. This time, this is only having a couple of minutes. So, okay, there's the direction of the grain. See all that onto the rag. So it's having that wood stain come out.
This is where you see how productive you've been with a light coloured rag.
So everything we do is wet. So if I got this rag and I scrubbed like that, just scrubbed, I would actually push those residues into the grain, which would be a big waste of time. We're now going to go on to our flushing. The blue one, part 3. This is the rinse part. So,
Are we neutralising?
no. So what we're doing is getting rid of the residues. So we spray, and this is a slow drying solvent. If you used alcohol like meths or thinners, they're very quick drying, and what you find is you're going to be everything's going to dry out on you really, really quickly. So look at that. I'm going to Now we have a saying, and that is the wet look is the finish look. And this wet colour would be, if you were to put a clear finish on this with no tint or anything in it, this is what you're going to get.
Not the shine.
No. It's the colour.
Yeah, often when you're stripping something, you're going, oh, I don't know if I'm going to paint it or clear finish it. This is your moment. Before, when it was drying, it looked quite blotchy. If you can't see the blotchies when it's wet with the flusher, ignore them. It's not going to show up.
And also here is, I'm not doing any more work. If I was planning to paint it, I'd still do the same thing. I'm not doing anything additional because we're, in this case, going to go for a clear look. So the flusher itself is it's a slow drying solvent, and it just gives you more work time. It doesn't dry up and anything that dries quickly is also smelly.
No paint thinnery smell.
It's extreme. Most people are amazed how little smell there is. And as I said, when you put the stripper on, it goes into the paint. It doesn't sit on top. It goes in, and then we're getting rid of the rubbish. And in the case of the flusher, it actually smells a little bit like candles. So this is really cool colour. So we're just spraying, scrubbing.
Looks almost furniture-like.
Yeah. And then we're getting our clean rag, and then we're just, again, wiping that off, spinning as you go. And you can see there that there's very little colour coming off. So it means we've done a good job with part 2, which was stripping what's in the wood. So we're getting a good result there. And what we've got is a surface that is not only strip what's on the top, we're also stripping what's in the wood. So whatever the new finishes you put on, it's going to soak in and isn't going to fail. The amount of people we meet at home shows where they only stripped their door a year ago, but it actually wasn't actually stripped properly, and it just peels.
If you found there was lots of colour still coming out, just go back to step 2 again.
Yep.
More stripping.
Now that's done. So in pretty short time, I mean you can't feel this like I can, but this is as smooth as silk.
Oh, look at this medullary rays showing up there.
And as we say, people love silk.
You can see there's no grain raising when you get the light on it.
There's no sound of crunchy. Now, when this dries, which will be in 1 or 2 hours from now, it will have some patchy looks to it. You might find some bits look like they need sanding. But this is the trick. Do not sand it, because if it looks good like right now, it's going to look good with a finish on. People often come back to it tomorrow, and then they'll think, oh, I better give it a light sand just in case. Well, that's a massive mistake, because you're going to cause a drama you don't need. So this is ready for any finish. So whether it be repainting or polyurethane, we're going to show you a finish later on called moisturising. Have a little glance down at George's end. You can see how much cleaner mine end is now.
Oh dear.
So I've been messing around just doing one panel, and George has been doing it more the way you would do it. We're now going to finish off the rest of this side of the door for Matthew. Do you want to leave him with a patched door? Okay, so we're going to speed things up. See you at the end. So this is now ready for any finish. You can paint it, hopefully not. You can polyurethane it and then restrip it in 5 years. Or you can do whatever you like. Or you can
Moisturiser.
This is a blend of gum, oils and waxes. In this corner here, can you have a look at that, Dory? This is now drying. So if you were going to polyurethane it, you need to leave this to the next day as the flusher keeps evaporating out. This is where the tutorial part was done, and you can see that's nearly all dry, and this is all drying off now. But with moisturiser, we don't have to wait till tomorrow, because the reducer that goes into our moisturiser is exactly the same as our flusher, and so it's all compatible. So George, put a big blob in there, please. One of the cool things about moisturiser, as I show you, it's like a leather care for wood finish. It doesn't matter how hot it is, how cold it is, how humid it is, how dusty it is, it just doesn't matter. In with a brush, a clean brush, and we slop it on. You do not have to be good, like me, with a brush. Just slap it on. Now, one of the good things about moisturiser is it's very what we call forgivable. You see, George is more thorough than me, he thinks, and so you might go scanning very close at my work and find an odd bit of paint here or there. But with moisturiser, that's fine, because if you find a piece later on, you can fix it. It doesn't matter. You can actually, through the moisturiser, do the touch-up.
Simon, while we're doing this, do you want to talk about how much stripper we used to strip the door?
Yeah, we probably ended up using 1 litre on this side. There's a lot of panels and all that sort of thing. It takes a lot of puffs to go through 1 litre.
And the amount of moisturiser going on here would be?
Usually a ½ litre will do both sides of the door. The ingredients in moisturiser, none of them mix with water. And why that's important is as the front door finish, any moisture that gets on it just beads off. For future maintenance, what you do is, as soon as the door looks a little bit lackluster, as we call it, you just give it another feed. And over time, and the simple maintenance that you get with this, the actual wood improves.
They'll make in about an hour's time and just demand feed those thirsty, but especially the end grain. And you don't have to do all of it, just whatever once.
We call it a living finish.
It's also food safe.
Good point. Cots, chopping boards, platters, all that sort of things. We'd now leave this usually for 2 days. And so it's a bit of a shame to actually take it off straight away.
So you're buffing this off. Just trying to get off all the excess. You notice I'm not using some specialist buffing pad or anything like that. This is literally a cotton rag. You can use some old bed sheets, they're not so great, but they're good too. My favourite though is bath towels. They're nice and fluffy, they get into the corners and grooves pretty fast.
Look at the glow, the mellow glow. It's just stunning.
Now this will improve over time. Every time you moisturise it and give it another feed, it will get better and better and better. You know, we mow our lawns, we do our gardens, we do all that sort of thing. So what's half an hour to an hour a year to keep your door looking $1 million? So it's all buffed off and the whole door is done in a day. Lots of projects out there that you can do in a day. We're done. Yes. And so thanks for George being here, otherwise we would have been working in the dark. So we'll put some more moisturiser on shortly. Haven't got a front door to do, but you've got a garage door to do, or you've got your weatherboards to do, a deck, maybe it's the project car, who knows what it is, furniture. Cooper's products are used on anything.
Metal, brick, concrete, plaster.
Exactly. So send us a photograph, send us what you're looking at doing, and we'll give you an idea of what you're up for, and all the ins and outs, and we've probably got a video on it somewhere lurking. So, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again next time on who knows what. So,
Till next time, guys.
till next time.
Bye.
Cooper's, the stripper that gets it off every time. No sanding, so easy. None of that toxic, messy dust floating around.